All right, we are now going to do a little article recap here. Um, this is an article from The Guardian by Coral Murphy Marcos talking about the U.S. credit card debt climbs to 1.26 trillion, nearing last year's record high. Mortgage and student loan balances saw a small decline with increases elsewhere, says Post alongside Fed report. I do want you guys to know that my current series on YouTube is about debt and explaining the amount of debt, why we have debt, how you should think about debt, and coming soon, how you get out of debt. So I'm very excited about this series, but it kind of lines up with this. So we're going to read a little bit of this article and give some commentary. But credit card debt in the United States is growing close to a record high, having crept up from 54 billion to 1.26 trillion between April and June. That is not accurate. It did not go from 54 billion to 1.26 trillion. Maybe it increased by 54 billion to 1.26 trillion. That is probably correct. So this figure is just shy of last year's record of 1.28 trillion. The report published on Tuesday also shows that credit card debt rose by 21 billion, or 1.7% in the second quarter compared with earlier this year, meaning Americans carried higher debt into the summer than in the first 3 months of 2026. It's very interesting. Mortgage and student loan balances saw a small decline, while there were increases across other debt products. So credit cards go in cycles throughout the year. I believe they are the highest during year end, during holiday time. They tend to be lower during summer as people pay off the holiday credit cards. They move into summer and they're less. And then we start that cycle all over again. So every year. So let's take a look here. An increase in credit card debt more than 90 days past due from 7.6% in late 2022 to 12.8% early this year raised concern about household stress in rates not seen since the Great Depression. I mean, that is a pretty substantial increase, 5% over the last 4 years or so. That's wild. Researchers found the pace of new delinquencies had remained stable for roughly 2 years. Now they're going up. The overall share of household debt held by people who were behind on their payments fell slightly in the months between April and June to 4.7% of outstanding balances versus 4.8% in the prior quarter. Okay. So I'm a little bit confused about the change there. The overall share of household debt held by people who were behind on their payments fell slightly, but an increase in the credit card debt more than 90 days past due is 12.8% early this year. All right, this article is weird so far. High inflation has made it harder for many households to maintain their standard of living. Yes, that's true. A lot of this is feeding your kids, going into stores, people buying their school supplies, groceries, baby formula, and diapers. We have had inflationary pressure across most prices. I'm sure a lot of those people have to carry balances because they are just simply strapped economically. Yes. The Consumer Price Index report launched on Wednesday showed that prices rose 0.1% in July from a month earlier, with prices remaining at higher levels than those seen before the war with Iran. Dunn said that using credit card and paying off balance every month and carrying a balance from month to month carry different risks. Carrying a balance can become a problem, although it can be useful in certain circumstances, such as when someone loses a job or needs to cover an unexpected expense. I mean, it's a problem regardless. It is helping you with one problem while creating another problem. This is the issue with not having an emergency fund or savings in the first place. And I know some people are going to say it's difficult with the prices, but you're now not only putting these expenses on your credit card, you're paying interest on those expenses, which means you're paying more. You're compounding the problem by putting these expenses on a credit card. A lot of it has to do with the economy. We're sort of in hard times. Having debt when there's a downturn is very serious for people, and it can do a lot of harm. The Fed's report also revealed that U.S. consumers took out a record amount in auto loans between April and June, reaching $211 billion in nominal terms. Yeah, so in my series and just in general, debt is generally not the answer for you unless you are getting a great rate and investing the difference in the market over a long enough period of time. Interest is just wasted money. You're never getting that money back. It has no benefit for you. It makes everything you buy more expensive. And if you're buying an asset like a car with these debts, it's losing value and you're paying interest in more than the original cost. So I know this is, one of those boomer things to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, but in reality, you just got to stop buying stuff. Food, only your necessities. If you're strapped for cash, you only buy the necessities, right? A lot of people pick on like, oh, my $7 latte. Like, it's not really about the latte. It's just the fact that you're spending money on things you don't absolutely need. Stop buying anything outside of what's keeping you alive. And that might not be fun, but if you do that for a while, you grind through it till either you make more money or your costs come down somewhere. If you continue to spend money on things you don't need, you're just crippling yourself further and further, making it harder and harder to get out of these debts. Cut your spending as hard as possible so that you maybe have a little bit of extra money to do something with initially to get out of debt. And then from there, you start to build some sort of emergency savings so that these sort of things don't end up crippling you. But cut your spending, get a savings, build an emergency fund, but just get used to the grind for a while and don't buy things you don't need. And that's really going to make an impact on your life.